Welcome back to The Glue Guy, and today we have our first ever Tuesday rebuilding episode. This is a category of topic that I'm really excited to create. Every week, like I said, every Tuesday I'm going to be rebuilding struggling teams, regardless of the sport, regardless of the league, and putting my spin on it and what I would do if I was in control of that team. So let's just get started and reveal the first team that I chose to rebuild. And as you can see from the two kits behind me, there's no better choice than to do my favorite football club in the world, Tottenham Hotspur. Just a quick recap of their season. Finished 17th in the Premier League, but they won the Europa League. They lost in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup to Liverpool, and they lost in the fourth round to Aston Villa of the FA Cup. So in one way, a terrible season. In the other way, they won a trophy for the first time in 17 years. But the goal is to make them be able to win trophies, but not finish 17th in the league. And that is exactly what I'm going to try to do. So I'm going to be going over the squad and who I think should stay, should loan, or should be sold. The finances that I believe are available due to online research. Player departures and how much I believe we can sell for them. Players who I think should go out on loan. Incomings, obviously, and who I think can help the team. And then ultimately going over the brand new squad. Then we're going to take it into FC25, see how they do in one season of career mode, and see if I was successful or not. So let's get straight into it. So going over the squad, I believe Spurs have a lot of good players in their team. Not enough world-class talent and too much deadwood just sitting there that needs to get rid of. If you want to progress in the league, in Europe, you always have to be ruthless. You have to get rid of players that are not good enough, and you have to improve them with new players who I believe are good enough. So if we start with the goalkeepers, currently there's Guglielmo Vicario, Antonin Kinski, and Brandon Austin. Alfie Whiteman's contract has expired, as well as Fraser Forster. Jack Keeley is on loan right now. But these three are the main keepers, and I believe all three should stay. I think Vicario is a perfect number one. I think Kinski, you just bought him in the January transfer window, and in his appearances, he's played very well. He's adapting to a new league. He's only 21 years old. And honestly, he could overtake Vicario whenever, in real life, whenever, that may have to come. Whether the Spurs want to sell him, maybe he's getting too old in age at that point. Goalkeepers obviously have a much longer life in football than other players, but Kinski, I think, is a perfect number two. And then Brandon Austin, he's been at the club forever. He finally got some minutes this season. And when he did, he actually didn't play too bad. So I think him as a third choice, and he fits that homegrown quota. Kinski and Vicario, it's a perfect goalkeeper union. Moving on to the right backs, Pedro Porro and Jed Spence, both are keeps. I think Porro is criminally underrated. I think if you think of top 5 right backs in the world, I think Porro is in there. People like to say his defense is a liability, and he's often getting beat one-on-one, which his defense can be poor at times. He's not getting beat one-on-one, but the issue is he always leaves somebody open at the back post. Now, I don't know if that's him or if that's the tactics, because it happens pretty much every single game, but that's got to change. But I absolutely think he should stay. And then Jed Spence. Many people thought his Spurs career would have been over by now. He barely played since he joined. In fact, he didn't make his first competitive appearance for the club until this season, and he was signed when Antonio Conte was there. So he's been at the club for a while, multiple loan spells, and then he finally got his chance, and in my opinion, he took it with both hands. I think he played great in the opportunities he was given. He kind of fell off a bit near the end of the season. I don't know if that was because, he hadn't played that much football throughout a season like he has this year. But I think in terms of a backup right back and first choice right back, these are very good. Left back, you have Destiny Udogie, and that is it. Obviously, you keep Destiny Udogie. He's probably my favorite player in the entire club. I think he can become the best left back in the world at some point. You got to remember he's only 21 years old, and in my opinion, he's already a top 3 left back in the Premier League. He had an up and down season this year due to injury, but we all saw what he did in his debut season at the club and in the Premier League last year. He was phenomenal, so I think he's a definite keep. Moving on to the center backs. Ashley Phillips, Cuti Romero, Ben Davis, Mickey van de Ven, Kevin Danso, Radu Dragusin, and now Luka Vuskovic. Starting off with Ashley Phillips, he completed A very successful loan spell at Stoke City this past season. The year prior, he was at Plymouth Argyle. And again, I think he's only 20, 21 years old maybe. Not right now is he ready for the Premier League, but I think he's a good talent, and he's somebody I would send out on loan one more time. Cuti Romero obviously is a keep. In my opinion, not the best center back in the world, but he's right up there. I think if you think of how successful he's been with Argentina, he captained the side against Man United in the Europa League final. He's a warrior. He's somebody you want to go to war for and with. And yeah, he's a definite keep in my opinion. Ben Davis is next up, and this you need to just let his contract expire once the season is concluded and let him walk, even if it's for free. He's been a good servant for the club, longest tenured player. I'm glad I finally got to see him lift a trophy. Obviously, that must have been nice for him, being there for so long. But in terms of a player and talent-wise, I've never been a fan of him. I see Spurs fans see he's as Mr. Reliable or whatever, but anytime he plays, he's a walking mistake waiting to happen. I'm not sure how he survived at the club this long. So even though we're not going to be selling him, he's going to be letting his contract expire. I think it's time to let go. Mickey Van de Ven, obvious keep, the fastest player in the Premier League history. Again, another up and down injury season. Hopefully going into next year, he cannot have the same repeat of injuries keeping him out for long spells of time. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, but an obvious keep. Kevin Danso, he joined in January from Rennes in Ligue 1. I think he's a phenomenal player, actually. I think at his age and his style of a center back, I think is something we need. He's a no-nonsense defender. Anything that's put in the box, he will put his head or body on the line. Obviously just joined again in January, so definite keep for me. Radu Dragusin. Now this one's an interesting one because we fought off Bayern Munich to capture his signature in January of last year, and I think every Spurs fan was really excited about it, all the reports we heard about him, but honestly, he doesn't fit the system that Ange wants to play. He's made countless mistakes. Obviously, at the start of the Europa League journey, he got sent off within 10 minutes. Still, Spurs managed to win that game, but he's had, like I said, countless mistakes, but he does have a serious injury at the moment, which would make it hard to sell due to the fact that nobody wants to buy an injured player. But if he was healthy and available, I'd sell, and even though he's not healthy, I'd listen to offers because I just don't think the way he plays suits our system at all. And then finally, Luka Vuskovic. Now this is a young Croatian center half. He's only 17 years of age, who we signed 2 years ago, at the beginning of Ange's first season in charge of the club. We signed him, sent him back out on loan to Hajduk Split in Croatia. Then he came back and we sent him out on loan to Westerlo in Belgium, and he had a fantastic season there. He was the leading scorer for all defenders in Europe this season at 17 years of age. I think this guy is a real talent. I'm not going to lie and say I've seen him play multiple times. I can only count probably on one hand how many times I've actually seen him play. But from what I've read, from what I've heard, it seems as if this guy is one of the next up-and-coming great center backs in the world, not just in the Premier League. So I think we should keep him and not loan him out. Let him grow with the team. Let him grow and be in England for the first time in his life, and see what happens. If maybe by January he's not getting game time, then we can loan him out. But for now, I'd keep him. Moving on to the midfield, starting off in the defensive-minded positions, we have Yves Bissouma and Archie Gray. Starting off with Bissouma, I was really excited when we signed him from Brighton, back when Antonio Conte was in charge, and then Conte just never really gave him a chance. And then he started off under Ange Postecoglou in those first 10 games of last season and was fantastic, ridiculous. Everyone was wondering why we never saw him prior. And then as the season went on, and as this season went on, you could see he has mistakes in him. He's rash at times. And in my opinion, he is not a reliable player if you want to be competing in Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup, everything possible. I think, thank you for those final few games in the Europa League. You were a key component of that squad, but I think it's time to cash in and make some money and replace him. And then Archie Gray. Signed him from Leeds in the summer for $40 million. I think everyone, including myself, was really excited. We just got this 18-year-old who so many people believe is the future of the England midfield, and I was one of those. And then because Spurs had such an injury, problem season, he had to play in center back at times, at right back at times, at left back at times. You never really got to see him in his main position, which is a defensive midfielder. And then near the end, when players came back, we did see him in it, and he didn't impress, in my opinion. In fact, I think he was worse in that position than he was at center back or at right back. So it's a tricky one. He's not lived up to the hype as what I thought there was going to be for this upcoming season, in my opinion. But he's still only 18 years of age. He's still, to many people, believe a future of the England midfield and England setup, so I'd keep him. Moving on to the central-minded midfielders, those number 8s, Pap Sarr, Lucas Bergvall, and Rodrigo Bentancur. I'd keep all three. I think Lucas Bergvall is just an absolutely ridiculous player. He's only 18 as well, and he won Spurs Player of the Season, Spurs Young Player of the Season, and Spurs Fans' Choice Player of the Season. So he swept all three awards. Once he finally got consistent game time this year, it was pretty clear you cannot play a game without him in your starting 11. I think he is fantastic. I think he's the future of this team, along with a few other players. And yeah, you keep him as long as you can. Pap Sarr, again, definite keep. I thought he was probably the best player in the Europa League final. That went to Cuti Romero for man of the match, which rightfully so. But I think Sarr, he got the assist for Brennan Johnson's goal. I thought he was everywhere, breaking up play. He's so athletic. He can run forever. And I'm a huge fan of Sarr, and he's only 22, 23 years of age. And then Rodrigo Bentancur. When we first signed him from Juventus, he was fantastic as well. Him and Kulusevski, when they came over in January, Conte's first transfer window at the club, both of them were brilliant. Bentancur was brilliant. And then he suffered an injury in Conte's last season at the club. Didn't come back until midway through of last season, and he's been up and down with injuries yet again. But he stayed healthy for the latter portion of the season, and I thought he actually played pretty well. He does have a poor challenge in him. He does have a rash decision every now and then, but I think he's a good, experienced head and a good squad player to keep, especially if you want to compete in Europe and the Prem next season. Then moving on to the attacking midfielders, you have James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski, and Alfie Devine. Maddison, Kulusevski, both are injured right now. But Kulusevski, before his injury, was the best player at Spurs, no doubt, and was definitely up there in Team of the Season shouts. And James Maddison, I think, had a very underrated season. He hit double-digit goals and double-digit assists in the Premier League this year, and obviously all competitions. I thought he actually played a lot better consistently throughout the year. After he got his injury in his first season at the club, he didn't really come back and play at the same level as he was prior. But this season, he had more goals, more assists than the one prior. And I think he's an assistant vice captain, definitely somebody you keep. Obviously, he's English and fits the homegrown quota. So yeah, keep Maddison, keep Kulusevski. And then Alfie Devine, who was also on loan to Westerlo in the Belgium League last year with Vuskovic. Another loan. He is obviously actually Spurs' youngest ever goal scorer when he scored in the FA Cup. But, I think he's not ready for that Premier League jump. He's had loan spells at Plymouth in the past, and I don't really think they went that well. So yeah, send him out on loan. He's still young, and see what happens there. Moving on to the forward line, starting off at the right wing position. Young Min Hyuk, Brennan Johnson, and Wilson Odobert. So starting off with Young Min Hyuk, this is somebody we signed from Korea in the past summer. He finished his season there, and then he joined QPR in January on loan for the remainder of the season and did quite well, actually. I know QPR fans were happy with him. I was happy with him with keeping up with his, minutes played, his goals involvements, his assist involvements. So, yeah, not quite ready for Premier League just yet, but again, he's only 19, so send him back out on loan and see what happens for a full season in English football. Brennan Johnson, Spurs' top goal scorer this year and probably the most frustrating player in the entire squad because he scores goals and he did it better than anyone else. But other than that, he is completely useless on the pitch. I know that sounds harsh, but unless he, shows up with a goal, he does nothing. He does absolutely nothing. He creates for nobody. He doesn't create for himself, but he scores goals. So it's a bit of a weird one, but he obviously scored the winning goal in the Europa League final, and obviously he's only 23 years old, so definite keep. And then Wilson Odobert, somebody I'm really excited about. We signed him from Burnley in the summer. Again, injuries really derailed his season, but when he came back fit near the latter half of the year, I actually thought he played really well. He's one of the only wingers in the squad that can still really dribble and take on his man, which is definitely a profile we need. And again, he's still young. He's an under 21 French national player. So, yeah, definite keep for Audebert as well. Then the left wingers, there are Manor Solomon, Heung-min Son, Matisse Tell, Mikey Moore, and Brian Hill. So starting off with Manor Solomon, he was a free transfer in Ange's first summer window with the club from Shakhtar Donetsk. Played a little bit here and there at the start of last season, then an injury kept him out, and then this season he was loaned out to Leeds, which he had a fantastic season, 18 goals, 11 assists in the championship. Really good season for him, and showed he actually can compete in the Premier League. He is a Premier League level player, but just not at Spurs, and I think this is somebody we should look to sell. Heung-min Son, club captain, club legend, probably the biggest legend in the modern era of Spurs, at least for my time, bigger than Harry Kane. You never sell him. If he wants to leave, it's only because he's either retiring or he's going to go back to Korea or go back to Hamburg where he started his career in the Bundesliga. So yeah, you keep him forever. Doesn't even matter if he's 41 years old and barely doing anything. This is a club legend, club captain. You cannot sell him. And then Matisse Tell joined on loan from Bayern Munich in January. There is a buy option for him. Currently, it's being discussed on whether Spurs can get it lower to around 30 million rather than 50 million, which I think would be a steal. He showed flashes of really good play in his time here, but he didn't really quite live up to the expectation that us Spurs fans were told of how he could perform. But again, he's also another French under-21 international. I think he is a really, real top talent. I think it would be silly to let him go. So if you can get it for 30, 35 million, if you can get him from that price, you should definitely do it. So I would say keep him. And then Mikey Moore. Obviously, Spurs fans know about him, and some English fans know as well. The 17-year-old is probably one of our best academy talents we've had in recent memory. He didn't go out on loan. He played this past season, and he did score his first ever goal for the club against Elfsborg in the Europa League. I think he is a real top talent. I think the future is probably the highest outside maybe Lucas Bergvall for him at the club. But I don't know if he's ready to be counted on to be a rotational player in the Champions League and the Premier League. So for that reason, with Ryan Mason leaving to become the West Brom head coach, I think you loan him out. Maybe loan him to West Brom. I don't know. You'll find that out later. But yeah, Mikey Moore, really high hopes for him, and I think a good loan spell of consistent football is going to be perfect for his development. And then Brian Hill, I don't even know where to begin with him. What a useless transfer he was. 25 million we spent and sent Eric Lamela to Sevilla the other way. Never scored a goal for us. I believe he only picked up 2 assists. He was sent on loan to Mallorca and La Liga. And again, injured. Nothing else is new. Every Spurs player seems to pick up an injury, whether they're at the club or out on loan. So yeah, sell Brian Hill for as much as you can. And then the strikers. Will Lancashire, Richarlison, Dominic Solanke, Dane Scarlett, and Alejo Valise. And I only see out of these 5, one player I'd keep. So starting off with Will Lancashire, he was sent out on loan in January to West Brom. Did not go well for him at all. He was previously the Golden Boot winner in PL2 when Spurs won Premier League 2 seasons ago. But I think you should loan him out. He's still 19, 20 years old. He could become a very good striker. He has a very similar play style to Harry Kane. So if he turns out to be him, obviously that's a diamond in the rough. Loan him out. Find a good side for him to compete at, and hopefully we'll see more development from him. Next up is Richarlison. And this one, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think every Spurs fan loves him because of his passion, because of how much he cares, for the club, for the fans, for his teammates, for his manager, Ange. But he has been injured every single time he steps out onto that pitch. He didn't get injured in the last month or so of the season, but when we signed him from Everton, it's injury after injury after injury. I don't know how much you can rely on him because anytime he's out there for a period of games, he's going to pick up an injury. So even though it is a bit sad for me to say this, I would sell Richarlison and hopefully make some money back. We did spend a lot on him, but if we can at least get a quarter of it back, I'd be happy. Dominic Solanke, he is the one keep in this striker line. I thought he had a very good debut season at the club. He didn't really quite reach the same amount of goals he did with Bournemouth the year prior, but again, he picked up injuries at some point in the season, and you could tell how much we missed him when he was out. So, yeah, Big Dom, one of my favorite players at the club now. I bought his shirt, this one right here that has Solanke on the back. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of him. Hopefully he can not have any injuries next season. Hopefully we can create more chances for him and he can improve that finishing in the box and he can have a stellar year and maybe even make the England team for the World Cup. Dane Scarlett is up next, and another player who we just continuously send out on loan and on loan and on loan, and they never really go quite well. And then he stayed for the second half of the season, did actually end up scoring his first ever Spurs goal, also in that Elfsborg game in the Europa League, but he's not good enough, in my opinion, to be a consistent player you can count on in all 4 competitions next season. So I'd loan him out one final time. If it doesn't succeed, then we're just going to have to let him go and sell him. And then finally, Alejo Valise, such a weird transfer. When we signed him, it seemed for $15 million, it seemed like we got one of the best up-and-coming Argentinian strikers in the planet. But he scored 1 goal for Spurs. He didn't perform well in La Liga this past season. He's also had injuries, and it seems as if he wants to leave, and Spurs want to sell him as well. So, yeah. Alejo, just, I guess, wrong player, wrong time. I'm not sure really how to describe it, but he is somebody I will be selling. Now let's talk about the finances. So with Spurs winning the Europa League and making Champions League football next season, they will be adding at least $80 million into the club. Whether they are going to put that towards transfers, whether they're going to put that towards paying off debt into the club, we'll have to wait and see. But $80 million is a huge chunk of change coming Daniel Levy's way, or coming my way now, should we say, in terms of bolstering the squad. And then it's been reported online that Spurs will have anywhere from 120 to 150 million right away to spend on transfers. So I think that's a great starting point. Obviously, we're going to talk about player sales in a minute here to see how much we're actually going to end up with. But yeah, those are the starting finances that I will have to begin with before I sell anybody. So let's talk about player departures. Like I said, who I was going to sell, and what fee I think I'm going to be able to get for them. So Ben Davis was free, like I said. Contract expires. No need to sign him back. We can sign a much better player, a much better replacement for him. Radu Dragusin, he is injured right now, but all these player values are from transfermarket.com or .us, the most reliable source if you want to find player values. So I'll be selling Radu Dragusin for $23 million. Yves Bissouma, I will be selling him for $30 million. Manor Solomon, $15 million. Brian Hill, $15 million. Richarlison, $20 million. And Alejo Valise, $5 million. And then with the loans, I would send Ashley Phillips on loan to Sunderland. I would loan Alfie Devine to Birmingham City. I'd loan Yang Ming Hyuk back to QPR. I'd loan Mikey Moore to West Brom. I'd loan Will Lancashire to Plymouth Argyle. And I'd also loan Dane Scarlett to West Brom. So if you add up the player sales and the budgets and finances I mentioned earlier, there should be $328 million to spend on upgrading the Spurs team going into the next season. So the first player I believe Spurs need to sign is a left back, because we really only have one, and that's Destiny Udogie. I know Jed Spence can play there at times, but we can't have Jed Spence being a backup right back and left back. So we need one concrete option for each. So I've decided to spend $15 million on the young French left back Bradley Loco from Ligue 1. I think he is in a very attacking left back, which would fit the role of the left back that Ange Postecoglou wants to play. I think he's still only young. He's only 1 year or 2 years older than Udogie himself, so he's only 22 years old. I think for $15 million, you can definitely spend that money wisely, and Bradley Loco is definitely a very good player to pick up, a very good left back to rotate in and out with Udogie. The next player is forking out $60 million on Bayer Leverkusen's Piero Hincapié. The biggest problem that Spurs have had is injuries, and obviously the biggest culprit of that is Mickey van de Ven, the left-sided center back who we all love and adore, but his hamstrings are made out of cheese. He can barely stay fit. Hopefully he will continue. He's young and he will continue to go through rehab or ways to preserve him from getting injured, but Hincapié is one of the best young center backs on the planet, in my opinion. 23 years old. He's a left-sided center back who can also play left back at times. And if you sign him, he's not just a backup to Van de Ven. He's a rotational piece. So it's not like it's going to be Van de Ven will play 70% Hincapie 30%. I see it more as a 60% Van der Ven, 40% Hincapie. And I think it's just a really smart bit of business to do. He's available on the market this summer. It seems as if Leverkusen are okay to let him go. 60 million, his valuation is at 45. So if you add an extra 15, I think it's a very good bit of business. Next up, a defensive midfielder. And I've gone for Johnny Cardoso, the American from Real Betis. Now, this is somebody who Spurs somewhat struck a deal with over the summer in sending Giovanni Lo Celso to Betis. And in that, they had, I guess, first rights to pick up Cardoso and at a decreased price. So it only has to be 15 million. He's also 22, 23 years old. And he is really what you need as a DM in an Ange system, somebody to clean up and somebody to look forward. Cardoso can definitely clean up. He has lungs and legs to run for days. And I think he is somebody, when he does pick up that ball in the center of the pitch, he's going to look up forwards to his wingers, maybe to his fullbacks, to his 8s and 10s, maybe even up to his strikers. So I think Cardoso is good enough to be the starting DM at Spurs. That could be an unpopular opinion, but he is who I would sign to fill that position of need. Next up, right winger. This is somebody who can also play left wing, but predominantly a right winger, and is somebody who has been heavily linked with the club in recent days, and that is the former Man City star, currently of Bayern Munich, Leroy Sané. The German, I believe you can sign him for 35 million. Hasn't had the best of times since he left Manchester City for Bayern Munich. He's obviously done well. He's won trophies, but he hasn't been the same player as he was at Man City. And I think this is just somebody who, again, a profile we don't need. A profile that we don't have, and that we definitely need. Somebody who can take his defender on one-on-one. Somebody who can create chances, spray it across the box to find Brennan Johnson or Dominic Solanke in that 6-yard box to tap in goals. I think I've seen a lot of Spurs fans online unhappy with these links, and then I feel like I'm in the minority who is absolutely over the moon if we can get this deal done. So, in my opinion, we should get it done. 35 million Leroy Sané. I think that's a perfect player to have in this team. Next up, a striker. Now, I said out of the 5 we have, loaning out a couple, selling a couple, so that means we only have Dominic Solanke left. So I think we should also go back into the Ligue 1 market and sign Ivorian Evan Goussant from Nice. He had his best season yet. He's also somebody who can play on either wing, predominantly the left, but he is also a striker at heart. He's 23 years old. You can get him for about $25 million. A very good rotational piece, somebody who's quick. Solanke is quick at times, but Goussant is quicker. They're both physical presence, and I think he's very much good enough to be able to rotate in different competitions. And then finally, a player who I've always loved, a player who is so close to joining Spurs in his prime. He's had a very poor couple of years now after his $100 million move, but I think if he gets the move to a club where he can be himself, he can get maybe not right back to the levels he showed prior, but close enough, and that is Manchester City's Jack Grealish, a player my family knows, my friends know that I love so much. I think he's a great player and also just a great person overall. Obviously, with Man City and under Pep, it doesn't seem like he's going to be there much longer, and they're looking to move on from him. He did win things, and that's what he wanted to do when leaving Aston Villa to join Man City, but in terms of personal development, it just wasn't there. He's 28 years old. His market value has taken a huge hit, so it's available to buy for only $30 million, and I think you should definitely do that for Grealish. Somebody who can play on the left, somebody who can play in the central midfield as maybe a 10, and just another creator in the squad. So if you add in all those player incomings of the $328 million available, that's only $180 million spent. So I believe that is pretty realistic. I believe that is something that, obviously not is all going to happen in real life, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new players I think is the minimum in real life for Spurs. And yeah, $180 million, I think that's $180 million well spent, but we'll have to wait and see. So if you look at the brand new squad, this would be the predominant starting 11. You'd have Guglielmo Vicario in goal. You'd have Pedro Porro at right back, Destiny Udogie at left back, Mickey Van de Ven and Cuti Romero as the center back pairing. You'd have a midfield setup of Johnny Cardoso, Lucas Bergvall, and Dejan Kulusevski. On the right, you'd have Leroy Sané. On the left, you'd have Heung-min Son. And up top, you'd have Dominic Solanke. So that is 2 players that make the new starting 11. But there's definitely some players in there as well that can definitely compete to become a starter later on and are good enough to rotate with when you're in Europe. So let's take this to FC25 career mode, simulate a season, and just see how good that team really is. Hey guys, I'm having trouble with connecting the audio, but we're just going to go at like like this. As you can see, at the end of the season, here we are. We finished with a few wins in a row, and then we lost to Brighton at home in the last day of the season, 3-0, so that's not great. Let's go and look how we did in the Premier League. We finished 7th on 60 points. Okay, so that's better than how we did in real life, so I guess I'll take that. Who ended up winning? Manchester City won. Okay, that's nice. I'm glad Arsenal couldn't win. They're second yet again, so that's nice. Let's go to the FA Cup. The winners were Liverpool over Chelsea on penalties. Did we make the semifinals? No. Did we make the 6th round? No. Did we make the 5th round? No. Did we make the 4th round? No. Did we make the 3rd round? We did. We lost to Everton on penalties at home. Okay, that's really bad. That's really bad. Let's quickly switch over to the League Cup. Which, oh dear, Arsenal won over Liverpool. That's not good. Did we make the semifinals? No. Did we make the quarterfinals? We did, and we lost at home to Arsenal. Okay, that's that's really bad. How about the Europa League? Can that save us? So Roma won 5-0 over Lyon. That's a thrashing if I've ever seen one in a final. Didn't make the semifinals. Didn't make the quarterfinals. Made the round of 16, and we lost at home to Ajax. We went out of all competitions at home. 3-2 on aggregate. That's not great. But, wow. Okay, so I guess that's the end. Let's go take a look at how the players did. Oh, one more. Squad Hub. Stats. So 23 for Solanke with 3 assists. That's pretty good. 20 for Son with 4 assists. That's nice. Ooh, he went down 3 overalls. 12 and 9 from Johnson. 7 from Gassan. 7 and 2 from Grealish. 3 and 11 from Kulusevski. Only 2 goals and assists for Sane, 2 each. 2 and 7 for Madison. So overall, it wasn't fantastic, but it's better how he did in real life. Only 13 appearances for Cardoso. I put him in the starting lineup. Strange. Okay, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Be on the lookout for next Tuesday for the next rebuilding video. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.